The following program is an HCTV Channel 4 production.
Hello and welcome to another Here's Homewood. I'm Rich Hofeld, your village president, and today we're going to talk with the citizens for Homewood Schools. My guests are Tom Dockweiler, Erica Holliday, and Alex Bosch. Thanks for being on Here's Homewood.
Thank you.
A little bit about yourself, Tom, your background.
My wife and I moved to Homewood in 1970, so we've been here 41 years. The kids all went through the Homewood school system, including HF High School. I've been a commercial banker my whole career. Bank downtown and a couple of suburban banks in the southern suburbs. We've loved Homewood for 40 years. That's why we're involved in what we're here for today.
And how did you get involved with the committee?
Well, I was on the school board for some years, and when they came to me with the need to mount a referendum, frankly, based on our investment, my investment of time over the years, my family's investment, what this town and what these schools have done for my kids, there was no way to not accept the challenge.
And with your financial background, it's certainly a real plus to answering questions.
It's helped. It helped me during my time on the board. We had some difficult financial times during those years, and we certainly have a difficult financial time now. It's not easy out there in any kind of public government work.
Erica, your background.
My husband Reggie and I have lived here for nearly 13 years. We have two children. They're in the Homewood Schools, Danielle and Aaron. I promised I remember to mention their names. And I have been a very consistent volunteer in many different aspects of the Homewood community, not only in the schools at PTA and the Homewood Foundation, but also Cub Scouts and HF Soccer and just about anything else I can get my hands on. So I've truly enjoyed being here, being a true part of the community, and I enjoy serving.
And do you see a need for being involved in the committee? So you
Oh,
step
most
forward.
definitely, yes, because we did want a diverse group of people with a lot of different skill sets as well as backgrounds and talents to round out the amount of people, because we really are trying to reach out to a broad base of people. So we did need people with different interests and talents, and so that's very much reflected in the makeup of the three of us, actually. And we're good representatives, we think, of the citizens of Homewood and the types of things that we would like to see in our community, because we're all very well invested here.
And Alex, you're the chair of the committee, I understand.
Actually, Tom and I are both co-chairs,
okay.
I guess, in name, but I think when it comes to the committee, I think personally I view all of us as equals. We're all very vested in this and believe in it firmly, and I don't think any one of us has more say than any of the others. I think we are all in this together, and we all believe in this, and we all have a vested interest in this, and we treat each other as equals. So I think that's one of the important things about this committee. It's a group of citizens, and we all treat each other as equals. And
How many kids do you have in school?
so I have three children. I have Ethan, who's in 5th grade, Lily, who's in 2nd grade, and Phoebe, who's a kindergartner.
And Lily, I met today.
Yes, that's what I understand.
You read together in the school. I didn't know she was your daughter at the time. She did a marvelous job of reading.
Oh, thanks.
She made me look good.
I'll have to let her know.
Absolutely. What is the committee? What are their goals, and what are they here for?
Sure. So the Citizens for Homewood Schools is a community group of volunteers who have come together, banded together, with I think several goals. One of the goals is to get out into the community and share, inform people about the Homewood Schools, what they're about, why they're a great part of the community, why they're an important part of the community. Also to inform members or inform residents of the community about what the referendum is exactly. What does it mean to them? Why is it important? What will the impact be to them as a taxpayer and a homeowner? And I think we want to make sure that we get out and talk to everybody so they can make it a good and informed decision on April 5th. And then hopefully on April 5th, we can make sure that people go out there and will vote yes in support of the referendum, because we think it is a very important thing to vote yes for, not only for the children of the schools, but also for the community as a whole, because the schools are just one important part of what I think makes Homewood a wonderful community to live in.
So, Tom, the goal of the committee is really outreach, make the goals known.
It's education. It's education of the electorate, leading up to the election, leading up to the vote on April 5th, and it's we look at it as telling the story of Homewood Public School System. The schools of Homewood, 153 is Homewood only. It's not the high school. And it's the story of a legacy that we really think is phenomenal. Homewood schools have been quality-based, fiscally conservative, fiscally responsibly based for decades, long before any of us were involved. We kind of credit the greatest generation. Our parents built the Homewood school system. Our charge is to preserve it, improve it, and in this kind of economy, protect it. We've worked too hard to create this quality, to let it slip during today's tough times. Protecting the schools, protecting the quality of our kids' education, protecting property values, and protecting the community of Homewood. That's our message for the voters on April 5th.
Before your committee was formed, there's another group of citizens out there called Foundation 153. And you all work together on this, do you?
We're all involved to one degree or another with Foundation 153, and I think Foundation 153 is one of, I think, four groups that exist within the Homewood schools that have elected to vote in favor of the resolution. I mean, the other school organizations that have also joined 153 in supporting the resolution is the Homewood Parent Teachers Association, the Homewood Parents Music Association, and then the Homewood Education Association. So all four organizations have come together in support of our efforts. And there are people that represent, I think, that come from each of those groups and are represented on the Citizens for Homewood Schools. And I think the thing is, the Citizens for Homewood Schools it's a separate entity, and we're here for a short duration to try and get our word out, and we're fortunate enough that we have all four organizations who are supporting our efforts.
You're involved in Foundation 153 also.
Yes, I am.
Let's get a plug in for them. They have a fundraiser coming up also,
Yes, they
so
do.
you want to talk a little bit
Sure.
about that?
So Foundation 153, we have our spring event. It's on April 9th, and it's at Ravislow Country Club. And if people are interested in purchasing tickets, you can go up onto our website at foundation153.org, and there's a location for the event as long as information about purchasing tickets.
What I've always liked, the money goes directly into education.
Right.
It's always been a worthwhile venture.
And it goes into innovation for the teachers and kids, for programs and experiments and things that we wouldn't be able to do without the extra revenue that the foundation's been able to raise.
Right. And I think it's important also to recognize that the PTA also they also do some fundraising effort, do a lot of fundraising efforts, and they do provide a lot of opportunities in the schools that wouldn't be there otherwise. So, and I think the PMA also does the same thing. And I think in the past year, several of the organizations we've gotten together for different fundraisers, and it's a community spirit where all four groups come together and support each other and support the schools and support the community and support the kids.
And the name of the game is quality education.
Yes.
That leads to 13 years in Homewood,
Right.
Involvement in the schools. Tell us about the education your kids are getting in the Homewood schools.
Well, although I had family living here before we came, we did have an opportunity to survey several surrounding communities, and we chose Homewood very much for the schools. There were many things that were pluses, the distance to Metro, and there's a feeling in Homewood that the people here have been able to generate, and once you get a hold of that, you want to be a part of it, which is one of the reasons why I have been volunteered for as many years as I have. It creates a very strong bond in our community. It's the fabric that's woven through, it's the parks, it's the schools, it's everything that we hold true here, and that's why many of us are so passionate about our schools, because they're such an integral part of our Homewood community and our Homewood lives, and we don't want to see that change or diminish in any way, shape, or fashion, and that's why we are tirelessly working. We're on shows like yours. We're going to be doing whatever we can. There are going to be door hangers on people's doors. We're canvassing. We are doing an all-out, leave nothing behind campaign to make sure everyone understands that this is truly, truly an important time. It's a pivotal time in our school's history, and we need to make sure that, as Tom said earlier, that we maintain and protect the quality that many of us came to Homewood Schools in the first place. And it's not just something that we take lightly. It's very serious, and we're very passionate about making sure Homewood residents know how important it is they come out to vote.
Alex, having young kids in the schools, what are some of the things they really get out of the school, apart from reading with me? What do they really enjoy in the classes?
I think they enjoy the teachers, the quality of the teachers. I don't think
The dedication.
the dedication. I think when I come home from work in the evening, I think one of the things that we like to do as a family is we sit around the table, and I like to hear some of the stuff that that they've done in the schools and what they've done in classes. And sometimes it's whether it's just sitting in a classroom, sometimes it's listening to the regular teacher, or sometimes it's some of the other opportunities, whether it's fine arts or music or doing this and that. I think one of the things that we appreciate about the Homewood Schools is that there's so many different opportunities to expose the kids to education in many different ways that help make them a good student, and not just in terms of their thoughts and their minds, but I think it also helps make them a good citizen, make them very well-rounded individuals, and exposes them to a variety of different things. It's not just taking a look at a book and studying what's in the book, but I think it's also everything else that takes place in the Homewood Schools, and I think it makes them a very well-rounded individuals and citizens of the community now and 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think it's something that the Homewood Schools do very well. It helps provide very well-rounded people.
Tom, as a former board member, the school board's always been very innovative, looking at the best way to do things. What are some of the programs or some of the emphasis that the school board in the past and today they're really placing on? What programs, types of programs, music, art?
Well, we've tried to put over the many years, we've tried to put a lot of focus on innovation on the part of the teachers. Let the teachers have some creativity and let them do some of the things that they want to do. A lot of districts don't do that. A lot of districts can't afford. That's why I referred to the money that the foundation raises. The faculty, this 153 has been the envy of Chicagoland. It's really the envy of Illinois when it comes to what we do with the money we spend and what we do with the results that we get out of it. We spend, and we have for a long time, we spend over $1,000 per child less than the state average. That's roughly 20% less than the state average. But our results, by every measure, whether it's test scores, whether it's participation, whether it's the fact that when the kids go to HF, 93% of 153 kids that graduate from HF go to college. That's kind of unheard of. Those kinds of things, getting that kind of quality for what we spend, the boards, and again, this goes back way before any of us, the boards have always taken the approach that there's two constituencies that a Board of Education 153 serves. One is the kids, and the other is the taxpayers. We owe, or the boards and the administration have always taken the approach that we owe the kids the best quality education we can provide, but we owe the taxpayers the responsibility to deliver it for a reasonable amount of money. And we believe that the facts based on what we spend 20% less than the state average, and the faculty and the administration and the kids and the parents, because the parents have a huge impact on what happens with their kids' education, how they talk at dinner time, how they get their kids to school with a breakfast and ready to learn and all that kind of business. Everybody in the picture, everybody in the team allows the district to create those results. And those results have been provided for years. They're provided for my kids who are now in their mid-30s, and Karen and I can't quite figure out how they got so old and we haven't, but the fact of the matter is they are. But people paid for that when our kids were little, that didn't have kids in school. People now that don't have kids in school are still on that team to keep this going, because the people of Homewood have valued education for a long time.
And then And that leads
Needs
us
to be-
into the
it needs
proposed
to-
referendum.
Exactly. It needs to be protected.
Now, the proposed referendum is rather unique in that it's a limited term referendum. Could you just briefly explain that?
Sure. Most referendums that people have heard about for years have almost always been a request for an increase in the tax rate, which then will go forever. The individual tax bill would bounce around based on EAV and equalizers and things like that, but the increase to the rate goes forever. This one, and I compliment the board because I think they were very sensitive to the economy, very sensitive to the stress that people are under today. They chose to say, let's do a 7-year bond referendum. It will allow the district to sell $7.5 million worth of bonds, which they will use to the extent of about $1 million a year over 7 years. That's why we say that this referendum will last 7 years. It will allow us to keep our programs right where they are for 7 years.
And at the end of 7 years?
And at the end of 7 years, this thing dies. We are asking for 7 years of permission to raise people's taxes. So unlike the Illinois Tollway Authority and unlike maybe Springfield,
Most bonding. Yes.
you know, people that use the word temporary, and we've already had, you know, it's only natural that people would say temporary, you know, we've heard that before. We can guarantee this one will be temporary because we're only asking for 7 years of permission. That's when the bonds will be paid off, and our permission to increase their taxes will die.
And timing-wise, it's perfect because interest rates are very favorable. The village floated a bond issue approximately a year ago, and it came in at 1.2%. Very, very favorable. It's almost found money.
Yeah.
I think one thing I want to add to what Tom said about the 7-year bond, you know, and he said it ends after 7 years, and the district does not have the ability or the authority to extend it beyond that 7 years. If the district wants to ask for more money, whether it's through a working cash bond or something like that, the district will have to go back to a referendum and ask the voters for permission to extend it. So this
So it
is something.
truly expires.
It truly expires.
It truly will die. You may recall the last referendum that 153 did was passed in 1992, and I can tell you for a fact we had no belief that that referendum would last 19 years until today. It lasted way longer than we hoped, than we thought it would. It allowed us to keep the quality where it was, with no additional increase in rate, but between tax caps and Springfield and some other things, it's finally
Those are
caught
the
up.
reasons why
Finally
money is
caught up.
needed now, which is what I really wanted to get into. School funding in Illinois, it's abysmal, it's terrible. When people complain about their tax bills and they say 2/3 of the tax bill are schools, I say, don't blame the schools. It's the way schools are funded in the state of Illinois. It's just a terrible, terrible system. So that's one of the reasons why you're going for a referendum at this time.
Exactly. Tax, and it would be, many people that have heard us talk, you know, have heard us say, in today's world, it would be real easy to sort of blame this whole thing on Springfield, and that wouldn't be. We're not doing that because it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be fair. Tax caps, done 20 years ago, are probably the biggest reason for the problem because they cap revenue to the schools at the inflation rate. And when the inflation rate is nothing, we just don't, the district gets no additional money to do no kind of expansion of programs, no money for any kind of even modest salary expansion, let alone paying utility bills and busing and all the other things that are usually going up. So that probably gets 2/3 of the blame, if you will. Springfield probably gets the other third because, I mean, they owe us almost $1 million that they're behind on. If the district didn't have the reserves that it built up over the years, we wouldn't have been paying bills the last several months, paying teacher salaries. And we see nothing, frankly, in the income tax increase. There's nothing talked about in there about increased money for schools. Our belief and what we're hearing from not only the media but lobbyists and so on, they're going to have all they can do to pay the bills they got try to get rid of this $13 billion hole that they're in, there isn't going to be any meaningful new money for schools. As you suggest, funding of education in Illinois has always been a local issue. It's still a local issue. It's going to remain a local issue for the short term at least. And this answer, keeping our quality where it is going to have to be a local decision. There's nobody else going to do it for us.
When this referendum passes, where will most of the money be going?
It will, when the referendum passes, the district will sell the bonds, and they'll have the $7.5 million in a payment right off the bat. They will then use it as they need it through the years, and they'll make it last at least 7 years, because that's what our revenue is projected to drop, about $1 million a year. So if we about $1 million over the, so if we have $1 million of money from the bond issue, we'll be able to stay right where we are. There's no plan for expansion of teachers. There's no plans for any building. There's no plans for any big investment in computers or machinery or any of that. It's to keep and protect the programs that we have in place and keep it right there and get us through this crisis.
Maintaining the status quo.
Exactly.
And the status quo, as you had said, is pretty high.
Exactly. And you know what, too, Rich, I wanted to mention, some of your viewers might be wondering, okay, how much is this going to cost me? And I want to make sure that people,
going to go into that.
I want to make sure that we cover that. You know, the impact for the homeowner is as such. It's $100 per $100,000 of the value of your home. So for example, if your home is valued at about $150,000 right now, that would be $150 of tax of money, and then that would be each year for the total of 7 years. And again, as we mentioned before, at that time it would stop and it would die. So, and on our website, which we'll be mentioning later at www.citizensforhomewoodsschools.org, there is a calculator on the website, so that if you wanted to know, you can go to your tax bill, you can find that amount, and there's a way that you can calculate approximately what that value would be for you as a homeowner, so that you would understand exactly how much it might cost.
And Alex, how does that translate into property values, increasing your property values with sound schools?
Well, I think you know the research has shown, you know, whether it's economists, we've also had an opportunity to talk to some local realtors and so on, and I think just across the board, unanimously, everyone has indicated that schools, since they're an important part of a community, that schools are one of the things that keep housing values up. It's one of the things that people, when it comes time to purchasing a house, that they look for. And it's not just young families or families like Eric and I or anything like that. It's even folks who may be empty nesters or people who don't have kids yet. That's one of the things that they take a look at when it comes to purchasing a home. They want to move into a place where the schools are strong, provide a fabulous education, and so on. And I think that translates then into, or I believe it translates into property values that are reasonable and that are good and strong. And I think that's why it's important that we keep our school, that the Homewood Schools stay strong by supporting this referendum, because it's going to keep our property values up. And you know, when the economy turns around, our school district, our community will be in a good position, because we'll still have those strong schools where, you know, our property values should only go up from here on, you know, knock on wood. And I think that's very important. You know, we've talked, and so I think that's why it's important.
And I think one of the unique values of Homewood, again, is that community that we all have. It's not so very large that we can't go to Caribou and know someone, that we can't go to the HF Fitness Club and know someone. We watch out for one another. Our children, you can see someone else's child down the street and you know who they belong to. It's a community that we all have we love it here, and that's why we're so interested in protecting what we have built, as Thomas said, built over the years. The wealth in our community has nothing to do with the actual amount of money everyone makes. The wealth that we have is the ability that we have to protect our children, protect our seniors, and protect our community. In doing so, enriching our schools, keeping them the way that they are, making them the best that they can ever be, and also making sure that we protect our property values is one of the things that we want to make sure that we protect, and that's what we're most interested in doing.
Well, I think it's so important. When I was in the schools today, it's just a lot different than when Tom and I had gone to school, to say the least. The innovativeness, just the programs that they have. Of course, I do have to accentuate books rather than e-readers. Well, you can't smell an e-reader, you can't turn the pages of an e-reader. You have to have those books, and I like to accentuate that for the kids.
I like having a book myself.
That's for sure. Tom, capital programs. Are any capital programs other than normal maintenance foreseen in this referendum?
No. We did several construction programs a few years ago. The buildings, we have capacity in the buildings for the enrollment that we have today, for all the extra programs that we use, music, art, gym, PE, and so on. There's no capital expenditure whatsoever other than routine maintenance in the referendum numbers.
So essentially it's to maintain the status quo, to give you the flexibility of saying you have the resources to continue doing what has been done in the past.
Exactly.
There's no bells and whistles.
Protect the
anything
quality through
other than the
this.
normal bells and whistles that
Right,
District
exactly.
153 has.
Exactly,
It's-
which makes it so special.
Yes. As far as District 153, what's their ranking amongst Chicagoland schools, area schools? People always look at the test scores and they look at how the ranking, how good we are. We know we're good. How is that perceived outside?
I mean, I think one of the things that Tom hit on earlier, you know, that we've heard that 93% of the kids who from the Homewood schools that go on to Homewood Flossmoor High School do graduate and move on to college. I think that says a lot about the Homewood schools, and I think it's also important to know that 85% of the students in the Homewood schools meet or exceed the Illinois state standards in the test scores. So, you know, I think we have I think the formula that our school district has come up with for teaching kids, for kids to learn and stuff like that, I think is reflected in the scores, in the test scores that they have, and I think it's very important that we go ahead and continue to maintain it.
And I think what Erica touched on earlier, I see so many newcomers to town, and one of the reasons they come to town are the schools, be it Homewood Flossmoor High School, be it 161 on the west side of town or 153 on the east side of town. That's our niche.
Right, and I think it's
come here
so
for that.
important for people to understand that this was a very, very well thought out plan, and the school board has gone to this really not as a first or second resort, but as its last resort. That there have already been over $1.5 million in cuts have already been made. We've had teachers agree to freeze their pay. We've had everyone to say, look, this is desperately important. We need to button down the hatches and get this done. And they are, as Tom mentioned, they have been extraordinarily fiscally responsible to date. There's nowhere in this that I've ever seen that they're using this money and asking for this money, more importantly, unless they really needed it, and they do.
And
I think that's a real one to emphasize. The faculty and the administration, all employees took a freeze for 1 year, mid-contract. Several districts around the state have asked their union or their associations to do that. We know of one other. We know of one, it's also in the Chicago area. We know of one other district that said yes. Our association has done it this time. They also did it in '92. They are clearly committed to the quality we're talking about.
I think commitment is the preemptive word, no
Yeah.
question about it.
And I think the important thing to mention is that it's an entire district and an entire community. They're all working together. There's no animosity, no adversity. Everyone's in this together, and it's a very strong sense of community. Again, you know, it's a community effort. It's not the teachers, you know, pitting one. You know, it's no one pitting against each other. We all want what's good for the kids and what's all good for the community.
For the community, because we're all stakeholders in it, no matter what our vantage point, we all are.
And you have a website if people want additional information. What is that, Alex?
Sure. So again, our website is www.citizensforhomewooodschools.org. And if people can go up there, and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is up there. There's FAQs. People want to get involved. There's an option for them where they can provide us their information and get involved. Again, Eric had mentioned like the tax calculator. If people want to have an idea of what the impact is on them, there's instructions on how they can figure that out. Some other ways that people can get involved is we will be having a couple of community sessions on March 13th, which is a Sunday. It's going to be at the Homewood Library from oh goodness, I think it's from 1 to 3.
Go to the website.
Go to the
Get
website.
Right, exactly.
Right. I think the important thing is that there's a couple of
Sure.
community opportunities for people to come out and hear. Two of them are at the Homewood Library. One of them is at Faith Lutheran, and we're working on getting one arranged at St. Andrew Church. So we do have plenty of opportunities where people can come and ask questions. And again, one thing we want to do is we want to educate people because we think it's important that that this referendum is, has three things that we want to stress, and we've said it several times. We want to make sure we want to protect our children, we want to protect our community, and we want to protect all of our property values. And that's why we think this referendum is very important to the community, because it is a community issue and it's a vital part of the community.
And we're winding down on time, but what I just want to reiterate is what you had said, Tom. It's a 7-year bond issue.
Right.
It lapses at the end of 7 years. If it is to be reinstituted, it has to go before the voters once again.
Exactly right.
There's no extravagant spending. It's to maintain the high status quo that we have in our schools.
Right.
And it's very important. And the election is when?
April 5th.
April 5th, the election. And again, the only thing I can say is, as you've heard me say before, we're not a school district, we're not a village, we're not a park district, we're not a library, we're a community. And this is a very important part of the community, and we certainly support our schools. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having us.
you.
Appreciate it.
Vote yes.